world of Judge Dredd is a dystopian world no one wishes to live in, only to realize that we have been living in it all along. This cruel, cold universe has several villains who are utterly ruthless. However, if there are some villains you definitely do not want to come across, they have to be the Dark Judges. Resembling the Four Horsemen, these Dark Judges are brutal, merciless, and undoubtedly evil. But there is one amongst the four who's particularly more terrifying than the rest. With fear in his name, Judge Fear is, understandably, nightmare-inducing. Gazing into the face of fear, victims often end up becoming paralyzed. But who is this Judge Fear? How did he come to be, and why is he such a feared entity in this universe? Well, that is what we will be looking into today. So, get ready to face your fears as we break down the one and only Judge Fear. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This may be a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Who are the Dark Judges? The Dark Judges were actually judges in their own world. They used to be like every other judge we have known until now, but there was a twist. So, the world that they belonged to, colloquially known as a dead world, was a place with little to no value for human life. Everyone there was pretty sadistic, and violence was a common thing. This kind of explains why Judge Death ended up getting this mentality that all evil deeds and all crimes were committed by the living. When he was just a judge tutor, he instigated the other three judges to beat up Judge Fairfax just to prove a point that violence has meaning, only if it serves the higher purpose of law. Who would have thought that this particular line of thought would end up becoming common in our world? I, for one, sure did not. Like many people in real life, these three judges also inculcated this thought process. I mean, they too wanted to be a part of this mission where they would punish any and every crime just to ensure there's a better world by their standards. Judge Fire actually sentenced an entire school to death just for noise pollution, so you can understand that their standards were pretty high, even for Dead World residents. Eventually, Judge Death met the Sisters of Death, Phobia, and Nausea. They were both mass murderers with supernatural powers. Death got entangled with these two sisters and committed several atrocious acts on his victims, which even he admitted were too far. However, by that time, he and his acolytes were already turned into undead beings, giving us the iconic gang of four Dark Judges that we know and love. After getting this so-called power-up, the judges started killing people whenever they felt like it. Since holding themselves back was not really a prevalent concept for these Dark Judges, as you can guess, they ended up killing a whole bunch of people in their world. Pretty soon, these Dark Judges were bored to death, pun intended, and had nothing to do. Well, right then, some dimension-hopping individuals from our world decided to pay the Dead World a visit. The Dark Judges were alerted of these uninvited guests, and after swiftly delivering their justice to them, Judge Death decided to take a little vacation using the Dimension Warp device. His colleagues were quite a bit against this vacation idea, but Judge Death was adamant. He wanted to dispense justice into every world he stumbled across. And now that the Dimension Warp device had brought him to Mega City 1, this was his new goal. However, his colleagues turned out to be right because Death did not, in fact, manage to dispense justice in this world. He was defeated by both Judge Dredd and Cassandra Anderson. However, sensing Death's danger, the other three arrived in Mega City 1, finally giving us the first ever Dark Judges versus Judge Dredd fight that we have been waiting so long for. Since then, the Dark Judges have returned to torment Judge Dredd and the residents of Mega City 1 time and time again. But every time they came back, Judge Dredd was ready to give them the warmest welcome possible with an epic beatdown. Now that we know about the Dark Judges, let's get into the main character of this video. The backstory of Judge Fear. In Prague 1984, both Judge Fear and Fire decided to take part in this contest to see who could wipe out a city block the quickest. However, when the judges were out massacring the civilians, Judge Fear came across this one kid who had no fears that he could exploit. This completely shattered his confidence in himself, and when Dead World eventually fell, Judge Fear hid himself in his castle, scared that the other judges would kill him. Later, Fear and the other two judges showed up in Mega City 1 to save Judge Death, who at the time was trapped inside Anderson's body. The three judges saved Judge Death from his imprisonment and helped him gain a new body. With the crew now complete, all four of them went around in Mega City 1, dispensing their judgment upon thousands of people. Eventually, Judge Dredd and Anderson intervened, owing to the big menace these four judges were, and that is when Dredd and Fear had their epic battle. Fear tries to scare Dredd by opening his faceplate, but Dredd does not fear anything, so he straight up jabs spear in the face, asking him to gaze into Dredd's first. Such an iconic line. After Dredd and Anderson defeated the 4 judges, they sent them back into the dead world using the dimension jump globe that the judges had used. Once there, it seems like all the spirits of the victims the judges had claimed so far flowed through Anderson, bringing about the end of these judges. What powers does he have? Judge Fear is one of the 4 dark judges, as I mentioned previously, but you can always recognize him from his black helmet. This great helmet of his has bat wings on both sides of it, making his silhouette extremely recognizable. At first glance, you would think that he's wearing armor, but actually those are bear traps. He has 2 huge bear traps on each of his shoulders. His belt buckle is studded with shrunken heads and other contraptions that he uses to grab onto his victims. He also has a huge black cape that makes him look even more ominous. Now, when Judge Fear delivers his so-called judgment, he does so by lifting the helmet's faceplate. He frightens the victims to death while uttering his iconic catchphrase, "Gaze into the face of fear." Over the years, we have only seen what is under the helmet only 2 times, but what lies beneath the helmet did not remain the same. One time, his visage was made of only eyes, and the other time, there were several mandibles that kept jutting out, kind of like the Predator's. Although it was never confirmed why exactly his face changed, it's assumed that it is due to Judge Fear manifesting his victims' fears to deliver his justice better. Other than scaring his victims to death, Fear also boasts the same ability as Judge Death, known as facing. This allows him to thrust his hand through the victim's body. Out of all the trinkets he has on his belt, the most recognizable and used ones are miniature bear traps and an enormous padlock. He uses the bear traps to immobilize his enemies and uses the padlock to lock out all the exit routes his victims might try to avail. He's basically like the unstoppable kidnapper from your very worst nightmares. Marvelous verdict. Whether you find him scary or not, there's no denying that Judge Fear is one of the most memorable villains in Judge Dredd's universe. Something about his menacing stature, his piercing gaze, and his iconic catchphrase blend together in the most perfect way, giving us an extremely entertaining villain. The duality of his character, as the killer who also happens to be super insecure about himself, gives us a highly comical caricature, which I thoroughly enjoyed. Let us know about your thoughts surrounding this juggernaut of an antagonist down in the comments below, and I'll catch you folks the next time. And if you enjoyed their video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone.